Morning, Renee.
Good morning, Ryan. All right, we're ready to go, Mr. Murphy.
We're ready. Trey will have to come in and join because we're going to start. He's here. Allegedly.
We'll work on it.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order this morning's meeting of the Architecture Review and Planning Board of Thursday, September the 26th, 2024. And with that, Renee, please can you call the roll?
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mrs. Orthwine.
Here.
Mr. Lyons.
Here.
Chairman Murphy.
Here.
Let it also be known, President participating is Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, myself, and absent with notice is Vice Chairman Doherty, Curtis Roach, Brian Coulter, and Terry Power.
Thank you. I hope you've all had a chance to look at the minutes of the meeting of July the 30th. If there aren't any comments, please could I get a motion to approve them?
I move they be approved as presented.
I second.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. Renee, any additions, withdrawals, deferments, or arrangements of agenda items?
No, sir.
Thank you. And now we face forthcoming meetings.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow,
Renee,
what's
we're
that
open
mean?
to your
Okay.
suggestions.
We do. All right. So the next 3 meetings, we need to move them back 1 week to the 3rd Thursday of the month. The November and December is due to holiday.
Mhm.
And October is a personal reason for me.
Okay.
I have had the opportunity to do a hymn recording with the Prague Philharmonic Orchestra.
Okay.
So I will
Prague?
be in Prague. Yeah,
Wonderful.
Ooh.
for that week.
So what are those dates?
So it would be
Let's go from October as well. That's because that was in the meeting.
October the 17th.
Uh-oh.
I'm sorry, you said October 17th?
October 17th.
Yeah.
November the 21st.
Mhm.
And December the 19th.
Okay.
I do know that Mr. Doherty and Mr. Coulter will be back in October. So if any of you have issues.
Right. Thank you for that. We now move on to the public hearing part of our meeting this morning. Is there any ex parte communication relating to the items that have been presented to us this morning?
No.
No. Thank you. Renee, please can you administer the oaths to anyone who wishes to speak this morning?
Stand and raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. And with that, we move on to the first item on this morning's agenda. And the agent for Joseph and Laura Pahota, would they please present themselves?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. That's Renee, presentation. My name's Eileen. I'm Joseph and Laura Pahota's agent. We are proposing a new concrete seawall, marginal dock, and a 24K AMF boat lift installation at 996 Pelican Lane, Cold Spring, Florida 33483. Currently, we have approval from both the FDP and the Army Corps, and since we were farther than 300 feet from a federal channel, we were able to obtain both state and federal approvals from the FDP. So we do have that in hand now. That is the approval that everybody should have in front of them. And if you look at number 1 on there, that'll be your state approval. Number 3 will be your federal, and the file number is also on there if you want to reference that. Third slide is Water's Edge Marine Inspections Report Findings. When the builders were getting ready to start the whole process with the house, they went ahead and had Water's Edge Marine go to the site and do an inspection of the seawall that was there at the site at the time, which is currently still there. And they found that there were a lot of cracks, a lot of cavities. The cap was poured very thinly, so there's a lot of exposed rebar, which will eventually rust. With all that being said, they did find that once the upland started to be developed, the new seawall, well, there would have to be a new seawall installed. We are keeping the existing seawall as extra support and then installing a new seawall in front. And then we're going to pour a 24 by 36 inch cap to kind of tie it all in together. And then also we're installing king and batter piles as extra support too. We're gonna remove all the batter piles that were there before. Here on the next slide, we have all the project details. So a little bit more specifics, it's going to be about 95 linear feet of new concrete seawall. Again, it is going to be in front of the existing. within 18 inches. That is what the FDP requires in order to stay within their exemption. Here you have the dimensions, 36 by 24. The dock installation, it will be a marginal dock. It's going to be with composite decking. I also have some decking for everybody. If you want me to pass it around, should I pass it over here?
Yes, please.
So we are using Barefoot Gray, which is this one right here. And on the back, there's also some kind of facts about it. And I also put them on the next slide. So this composite decking is one of our favorites to use. It's super durable, really easy to maintain. You don't have to use the oil to maintain like you would the wood. It's a lot less maintenance, and it can hold a lot more heat. Here is all the stuff that you see on the back of it. So the UV protection pack, the high load, live load ratings, and all of the kind of specifics about the material. And yeah, it's pretty simple project. We're just doing seawall. We're starting a new marginal dock going along shoreline, and then new boat lift so that the homeowners can enjoy their waterfront.
Okay. In the letter you provided from the Department of Environmental Protection for the verification and the approval, it's dated November 9th last year. Is there any time limit on that?
No, well, usually it's between 3 years to 5.
Okay,
Yeah,
so-
they give you a pretty long span, and if anything, like it's really easy to renew it, but it's
Right.
usually 5 years.
Yeah, it was just, I wondered if there was a limitation or a time term on terms of the approval.
No, yeah, usually it's a lot more than, we're definitely in the time frame for now.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Malcolm, it's sort of related to this. Did they unify the title yet on this property? Have they unified? There was a title issue when this property, when the home was built. That little place where in fact, where the seawall is going to be was a separately deeded parcel of property. Am I remembering
It was
correctly?
annexed. in.
Yeah, it has been annexed in.
I believe
Okay,
so, yes.
all right, that's the question. And the entire seawall would be on the property. It doesn't encroach, not the batter piles and the
No,
decking, but the seawall itself is within the property line.
Yes, sir, it is within the property line.
Do you have any responses, Renee, from neighbors?
I have not.
I'm curious, neighbors to the east, south, they're actually probably in Delray, aren't they?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
So I don't, do you?
We don't even
notice
have to
that?
notify them, no.
They don't provide, yeah, we don't, we're not required to provide notice outside of Gulfstream under our code.
Really, the only curious question I have is with the dock and the boat lift. You really extend into the canal. And I don't know, it's not a very wide canal, but I guess the authorities, environmental protection, and
That's
is
why
that
we're
an issue at all? You follow my question? Because it's very narrow. Well, it seems narrow. I don't really know that for sure.
So usually the FDP, they allow you to go 25% of the width of the waterway, but this canal is very small, like you said, so that's why we're proposing a marginal dock. If usually other canals, when they're a little bit bigger, will do like a finger pier down or more so they can walk down, but a lot of these canals in Gulfstream, we need a marginal dock, and it's not really spanning that much. I believe it's 5 feet for this one, or 4 feet 7 inches. It's not going much into the waterway at all. And as a general rule of thumb, the FDP usually says 25% of the width of the waterway.
So, you know, what she's describing is not permitted under town code. You know, they are required to have a very narrow dock, which they do, and then a boat lift that's placed consistently with our code. So it's within the sort of the center of the property. I believe it's a four post lift. You know, as far as the setbacks on the property from the neighbors and that being an issue, you know, reviewed the application and staff found that was acceptable. It is a narrower canal, but I think it still has
Okay. Thank you.
adequate.
How high above the seawall will the lifting equipment be?
It's going to be flush with the seawall.
Any more questions?
No, the equipment's above the seawall cap.
The dock or the boat lift equipment?
Right, the lift mechanism is what's on page
Pro
5 of 5.
Okay. the dock that you were referring to or the boat lift?
The boat lift posts.
Okay, the boat lift, it should be, if anything, 6 inches is usually what they do, 6 inches to a foot. Or they either do it flush with it or they do 6 inches to a foot just to account for the specifications of the manufacturer.
Well, she's talking about the posts that hold the lift. They look like they go 4 or 5 feet above.
Oh, like how high they
Yeah,
are?
Yeah, on that
Oh,
page,
okay.
on that elevation.
Usually they're embedded 10 feet into the ground.
Mhm.
And
I
then,
know, do you want to take that at the microphone and then you can talk to it?
okay, let's see. Doesn't look like he necessarily specified them on here, but I do know that usually they're embedded 10 feet into the ground. And then whatever height the town wants us to cut it at, we can cut it at whatever height you guys need us to. But usually they go 10 feet into the ground and then however long the pilings are, that's how much will come up. That makes sense.
Do we know if there's a stipulation on that in terms of height? In terms of,
There is. I think it's only 4 feet above the seawall. And
Okay.
then, do we know the size of the boat that's proposed for the lift?
I'm not completely sure. It's a 24K AMF boat lift that we're doing. I believe the boat is 20,000 pounds. I can get the specific specifications for you guys if you need it, but do not have them on file. I honestly am not completely even sure if they've purchased, because when the builders came to us, I didn't think that the homeowners had the vessel in mind that they were going to put on that lift. So we just accounted for a 24K to kind of keep the options big, because a 24K boat lift can hold a lot of weight on it. But when they came to us, I don't believe that they had a vessel in mind to put on that lift yet.
Trey, I think Katie's right. We should pin that down in our approval. The height
has to be.
You know, if it was 5 or 6 feet, it'd be offensive. It's as
Yeah.
tall as a person, 4 posts sticking there. And oftentimes there's no boat on it. It's not very attractive.
No, that
So
makes sense.
do you think you'd be willing to meet our code cap? Is it 4 feet, Trey?
So,
To the top of the motor, you know, there's a motor mounted
Yeah.
sort of on top of the post.
so low profile piling boat lifts are permitted providing the lifting equipment does not exceed a maximum height of 5 feet above the seawall. The maximum size of the vessel is 34 feet. And then when it is out of the water, it cannot exceed 10 feet above the seawall. So we need to make sure that, what is proposed meets
Okay.
that
So taking
criteria.
account of the vessel that's going to be lifted as well, we have to take.
Okay, I'll see if the engineer can add the vessel onto the plans once we resubmit to the city. That way you guys can see how far it's encroaching and everything.
So we will need to add that into the motion, that the height of the lift has to be within the town's
Code here.
code.
So after all this work is done, you'll certify it. I mean, you'll go over and look at it.
It'll be signed off.
Right. There's a final sign off by the town
Right.
before the permit is
Yeah, we'll
issued.
do If there are no more questions, please could I ask for a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan to permit the construction of a new 95-foot linear feet seawall within 18 inches waterward wet face to wet face of the existing seawall. New batter piles, new king piles, and a new seawall cap overpour, and to permit the construction of a new 58 feet by 3 foot wood, no, not wood dock,
Composite.
composite dock, composite wood dock with boat lifts to conform to the specifications and codes of the Gulfstream manual.
Is it a second, please?
I second.
Renee?
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Ms. Swarthline.
Yes.
Mr. Lyons.
Yes.
Chairman Murphy.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I get those back, please? Thank you. And with that, we move on to the second item on the agenda. The applications for Avenue au Soleil.
Good morning, folks. Kerry Glickstein for Blue Water Cove LLC. With me today are Luis Rivera with Affinity Architects, Luis Vallejos with Majestic Views Landscape Architecture and Landscaper. as well as Neil Wood, the engineer with C Engineering. I don't know how you want to approach these presentations and approvals. The home pieces of this are straightforward enough. The shoreline, unlike the last application you have, was a new shoreline, and it was permitted for both lots 7 and 8, which are part of our development. But we also
So
permitted.
I'm sorry, Mr.
We'll
Glickstein.
do them in the order.
We're on 2745.
Yeah, we'll make them discrete applications.
Correct.
So
I'm
we'll go
sorry.
through
So the first one we're hearing right now is 2745, which is the demolition
Of
of
the-
a home in
2745.
Place au Soleil.
No, you're not doing that.
That's not ours.
No,
That's what.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Okay, well then
Is there someone to?
I can speak to that.
Okay. All right.
Sorry.
No, that's all right.
No.
And then
that's the next item on the.
and then
It's up on there, so.
Yeah.
and then
Gotcha.
it's the shoreline, and then finally we'll do the property.
Fair enough. Check.
Should we reset?
Sure, it's really, I mean, the whole shoreline is integral, so happy, this is just a demolition permit, so happy to answer any questions on that.
The only question is apparently there's a giant tree in the front yard,
Yeah, and
and you're suggesting it be removed.
Mhm.
It's a black olive.
Hi, my name is Louis Blahos. I'm the landscape architect.
Okay.
Yes, the tree in the front is a large black olive. The owner doesn't want it because it's a mess on the driveway, on the street, the droppings and so forth. We're planning on replacing it, down the road, and we've got it in our calculations as everything else we're proposing to remove. And the few trees that are not in the way of construction, there's a beautiful silver buttonwood to the north and coconuts to the north that are on the property. We are going to maintain. Also, the 2 hedges on the north and south of the property, even though they're a mix, we are going to maintain at this point for privacy to the adjacent owners and replace them down the road when we come to you with our proposed new landscape plan and architecture. But yes, we are proposing to remove that black olive. The owner and deemed it as messy and does not want it on a new driveway or anything like that.
Understand about it being on a new driveway. However, the application's going for sod, yeah? Demolition and replacement
Correct.
sod. So
Correct.
it won't be going onto a driveway. And one of the main impacts, if that's removed, when you enter Avenue au Soleil, you've got that vista of the trees.
Right.
Yes.
And it will have a major impact on Avenue au Soleil. Also, with the other applications we get where people take down trees, it's immediately replaced with a tree or trees, the landscaping.
Correct.
What you're presenting to, if I understand it correctly, is that the application as it stands, remove the tree, there'll be a period of time, you'll come back to us with a plan for a property with landscaping or whatever, but
Correct.
let's deal with what you've got here in front of us. And so there will be a time lag between the proposal that the tree's removed
and
there's new landscaping.
correct.
That-
Add it just for
yeah.
timeline purposes.
Yeah.
The reason we're coming in for demo now is because the plans will be ready next month, maybe November. So
Mhm.
we just want to get the house demolished
Mhm.
first and then start.
So in that case, the time frame's short anyway,
Right.
Correct. It's
at
not
which
the
point
long
you'll
term.
have a new landscape plan coming in. So, and this is my point of view, the negative impact it will have on Avenue au Soleil will be fairly short. So therefore, there's no point leaving it. As in, there's no point in taking it down, because from what you're saying is you're going to come in next month and ask for a delay anyway.
Are you?
Sorry, I'll start again. I know. I'll start again. Here we go. Kerry had a reset. I'm having a reset. Everyone's allowed one this morning. Okay. So.
What about 2 for me?
No, we'll get to that, Paul. So, because of it will make a big difference as you enter
understand.
Avenue of Soleil. But from what you're saying is, if this goes forward, you're going to come back to us, hopefully next month, with a completely new proposal, which will include landscape, which we'll take into account, which hopefully will mitigate some of that impact that's going to have on Avenue Soleil.
Correct.
Yep. So the fact that it's going to be there potentially, obviously I'm not speaking for the board, but potentially it's only going to be there if you desire to take it out and put new landscaping in. It's only going to be there for a limited period of time, right?
Correct.
So, but if you take it down immediately, that's a period of time which is going to have a negative impact on Avenue of Soleil.
Okay.
That's just the point of view. And in terms of the black olive, absolutely, we know that they're not good for drives, but if you're putting sod in, it's not going to make that much difference.
It's gonna. Okay.
So
So
Malcolm, are you suggesting they leave the tree up
Yes.
until
and take it down.
Well, you'll make that.
I think you could leave it up during construction in general. I think you would take it down when you did your landscape.
Yeah, I think that we're looking at demolition, doing it during demolition, because it's such a large tree.
You're gonna have to take it
And
away.
well, it's not just taking it down, it's digging up the whole ball of the tree, you know, and so forth.
What's the distance between the tree and the properties, and obviously it's a big,
Right.
you know, to get round it for demo. But the other part is, I mean, from your point of view, can I ask why you're going to the point of demo, tree, the whole thing, and if in a short amount of time you're coming straight back to say, this is what we're going to build, this is the landscaping, do you see that as a short amount of time?
We can't demolish the house after December 1st, so we want to start construction in between that period.
Okay, I see
And we
that.
just weren't quite ready with the plan, so we just wanted to get the house down so we can start.
Do you think we'd be okay to leave it there? Take it down later, or do you think
If that's what the town wants.
that's what the town wants? Right. It would really, because they'll have all the heavy equipment, you know, during demolition. It would just make sense. It's just to remove the whole ball and not just do a stump grind or something like that. Then it would limit putting a tree there down the road. We are replacing it with some large trees.
Which is great, which is what we pushed
awesome.
for. We asked for that.
And native trees that are going to be nicer down the road. You know, we haven't decided, you know, if it's going to be oaks or whatever. But yeah, they're going to be sizable trees. I don't know their location because I don't have the architecture. I haven't designed the driveway yet or anything like that. So, and then I wouldn't want to put a new tree, you know, even with a barrier around it, you know, during construction. As you know, more than likely it'll probably
Roots,
just get.
Yeah, and about the roots.
So we're focusing on the timing of taking the tree down. I'm not quite to the point of where the tree should be taken down, quite honestly. And what I'm concerned about is the domino effect. Every time somebody wants to take down one of these big trees, a part of really what makes Gulfstream is some of these iconic, beautiful trees, the canopies. And we've been pretty firm about not permitting that. And we've had a number of requests. I have a neighbor who wanted to take a big tree down because they want to get more sun on their pool. And we said, no, you can shape it, but you can't take it down. Let me finish. So what you're asking the committee, asking me, I'll speak for myself, is to trust that you're going to come back with what is called reasonable replacement trees. And I guess, you know, we could go that path. But what I think is reasonable replacement may not be what you think. And you could end up putting in some very big trees, but they have to be meaningful. I mean, I would say, you know, in the context of 5 years, we back to sort of where we were. I picked 5 years, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 10, I don't know. But if you went down that avenue, and I drove it twice, and then the neighbor across the street's got a beautiful tree. The neighbor a little further down on the left has got a beautiful tree. And all of a sudden, all those trees, I don't know what your association thinks about taking down all these trees, but I think that.
I think Paul, sorry to interrupt. I think one of the challenges we've got with this application is normally when trees are taken down, there's an immediate proposal to say we're replacing it with this. And it's not, I know about trust, it is about trust. But on the other hand, from a desirable property point of view, you're going to want to put in good landscaping, right? Absolutely, we understand that. I think this is the challenge we face, that a significant tree that has an impact on Avenue Soleil, if it's down, how long will it be before we get the proposal back to what it's going to be replaced with? Can I just play the if game that you were playing on? Let's propose that you said that you take the tree down, right? Say, or we don't, that's take it down. When would we expect to the board, and obviously it has to come through, the proposal for what's going to replace that property that's been taken down? You said you can't demolish past the 1st of December.
When? November?
We're
When's the
talking about next month, that the house.
So it could be October that you could get your proposal. And we're just playing
At least the staff, yes.
the if games. What, to the staff, you could get those, the staff, you haven't had any.
I have a
nothing's been
quick
presented.
question.
Yep.
You emailed me yesterday and said this may move to May. So what is happening? Did that change? Because that would make a big difference. If it's not going to be till May, they're not going to want this tree to come down.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what we could do is leave the tree up until we get our other plans
Yeah.
approved and start construction there.
We're trying to move it forward. It's just, if you're going to turn around and say this is a 4-week hiatus, and that's going to be next, we're going with the plans, the replacement trees, it's everything we can live, when I say we can live with, obviously it has to go through the process. But if May is a potential, and that will be a
Well,
significant.
if May's potential, we wouldn't demo that house.
Yeah,
until,
yeah.
Then the plans would be approved.
Yeah. So there is, if it was set in stone that you were going to come back absolutely in October, nail, done. And I'm speaking personally here, there's too much of a if in this. So from my point of view, I would want to see the tree remaining. And that's just my personal point of view because of the impact. Absolutely. If
They're fine with that.
Yeah, if you were going to turn around
Just
and say,
that one.
yeah,
They were fine.
if you're coming around and saying, we're taking it down, we're going to replace it with these trees, it's what we face.
And
all
just
the
so
time.
you know, I visited the site and I'm familiar with the site. I
Yeah.
do a lot of work
Yeah.
in the city and especially in Avenue Soleil. And it's almost right around that turn right there. And it is important. And I was more than thinking of when replacing it. If we were going to do an oak, not to get a standard single trunk, but basically specify like what we call a ranch oak, field grown, come in, something sizable just to begin with. I mean, not initially because it has to be root pruned and has to be canopy pruned before you can move it on a trailer. But something like you said, in 3 to 5 years, would be a sizable tree, or trees, in that area. As I said, I haven't seen the architecture, haven't designed a driveway. It might be something where you have 2 sizable ranch tree oaks. I don't know.
And that gives you the opportunity to work out what works.
I understand the construction end of it, but I also can understand keeping it. So if that's what you recommend, then I don't think that we would have a problem with that.
Just for comparison purposes, I would remind you guys, 2 years ago, I think is when we had another hurricane on the other side.
Yeah.
We had the tornado come over, tore that tree on the corner down, and Anthony and I went out and we found one. I don't remember how much it cost, but I mean, it's doing very, very good. That's just bring it up just for comparison purposes. So you can look at that and see the size of it and see what you think.
And we'd consider the landscaping as it comes in with plans and whatever, as we do always.
Correct.
just a heads up, it is a case of as it goes in, not in 5, 10 years, 15 years, this
Correct.
bush is going to be 20 feet tall. But we've faced that before, right?
Right.
But just because this is a unique situation in terms of wanting to remove it and then over an undetermined amount of time, possibly a month, 2 months, could be longer, the negative impact it would have on Avenue Soleil. But when the proposal comes in for whatever you're proposing there, then really look forward to seeing it, because you're cognizant of the fact that you need good landscaping there because of what's being taken away.
Do you want to go ahead and demolish the home though in the fall?
Do you want to go?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
All right, so we're talking about a potential motion to demolish and accepting the one tree. Is that what we're?
I have a few more
Yes,
comments,
go
if you
ahead,
don't
Paul.
mind.
Go, Paul.
The town manager reminded me that we had an application in Polo Drive, a major tree, approximately the same distance from the road as the tree in question here. It was decided that the owner had to maintain that tree. We would not let them take it down. And I don't think that's the first time. And so when I look at this question, I look in the context not of just your application, but other applications. And I know Trey has always advised us that each application stands on its own and blah, blah, blah. But I mean, I'd like for a town to be consistent with the reasons. If it's in the middle of the property, you can't build your house, well, that I understand. But it's because it's a dirty tree, which I also understand, but that's a little more manageable than preventing somebody to build a house they'd like to build. So I'm still sort of challenged by this decision. And by the way, I withdraw the term trust. And I'll call it devil in the detail, because reasonable replacement trees, we could discuss that all day long. We never necessarily agree. So I don't know how we as the ARPB, we have to look at it in the context of not just this application, I think, but others.
I think so. I think we've got to view this application, as I say, discreetly. And so if you're willing to withdraw the aspect of the tree, I think we can move forward, because we will address your point, Paul, about the tree in the context of a proposal with a landscaping solution,
Correct.
which you're going to do at a future date.
Correct. I think just looking at it, if we can come in there and replace it with something sizable, something native and nicer, like an oak or two, I think the effect around that corner would be better than just one big tree, and everything else that we install thereafter would look out of scale.
And that will be
Also,
on a future.
Not that that could be wrong.
This is a discussion.
Right.
My thought process is evolving. As I suggested, if we could see what it might look like in 5 years. I just want to be sure. I think really at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay with this, but as long as we make a decision about removing the tree in the context of knowing what we're going to have in place.
And that will be on your future application, definitely. And we'll absolutely take it into context for your point, Paul. But at the moment, we're considering.
I don't have the plan in front of me. I think also that there's overhead power lines.
Not in Placer Soleil.
No,
there aren't any in Placer Soleil.
They're underground?
Yeah.
Because there is a pole, if I'm not mistaken, right there by a transformer.
Might be
Pardon me?
It's probably a street light.
Yes.
Let me just try to simplify this.
Yeah, I think we're getting there, Kerry.
The tree is off the table.
Let's
So,
just move forward.
Yeah, it's just a demolition permit for the house at this point.
Yeah.
So whatever comes next, you guys have a full crack at that. So the tree
And we'll
doesn't
take
really
that,
warrant it.
Kerry.
Your motion should
Yeah.
eliminate anything to do with the tree.
We'll take any future landscaping proposals on their merits, as opposed to what if, well, it may be. Okay. So, and Paul, that accommodates your point as well in terms of we'll take it forward. If there aren't any further questions, Tom, could you make a?
It's sort of in the motion here already if you read the second page.
Yeah.
When we get there,
Yeah.
get there, okay. So I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a demolition permit to permit the demolition of the existing structure.
I second.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes.
Secondly, I'll make a motion to recommend approval of a land clearing permit to permit the clearing of the property of any vegetation in the way of future construction.
Does vegetation count as a tree though?
Well, it sort of comes in the next motion, but I can add it to this one.
Okay. With the exclusion of?
With the exclusion of the black olive tree in the front of the property.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I second.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes.
I'll make another motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan to permit the demolition of the existing structure, clear the property of any vegetation in the way of future construction, with the exclusion of the black olive tree in the front of the property, and to sod and irrigate the lot with the following conditions. Any subsequent application.
There, you can remove that condition because that related to removing the tree. So
This did.
you're correct, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Great.
So that's the motion. So there was no condition then. So you want me to read it again?
Please, Tom.
Okay. Motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan to permit the demolition of the existing structure, clear the property of any vegetation in the way of future construction, and to sod and irrigate the lot, excluding the removal of the black olive tree on the front of the property.
I second.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes. Thank you. We got there in the end.
All right.
Okay. And with that.
You thought that was going to be easy, right?
Okay.
This,
Yeah, so I got drafted late, so apologize for not paying closer attention to the agenda, but having gone through that, I guess the same comment applies. I've already introduced the people involved in what's before you for the next items. The home and the landscape, those are specific enough and those professionals can address that. The shoreline, however, as I was mentioning, was part of a larger state and federal application. So we not only permitted through the FDEP and the Corps and the county, and I don't know how other acronyms I can't remember, but so it was a permit that applied to not only Blue Water Cove lots, but also the remaining fine property. And unlike the previous submittal, it's just our practice, rather than present summaries on very complex and complicated issues, you have in your packets all of the permitted plans, which unfortunately contain much more information than you're probably interested in, but that's what's before you, and we wanted that before you rather than a summary. So, because it is very comprehensive and complicated, but in general, the state, the DEP, Florida FDEP, and the Army Corps really don't care what the other agency wants or how they permit a plan. They have their own criteria. They apply that criteria, but they somewhat operate in silos. For example, on the shoreline in front of Fines property, there is mangrove restoration. That was a requirement of FDEP. The Corps didn't want it. So a lot of this process, or they wanted another methodology, which we applied, which is offsite mitigation. The Corps permit, which we just received, I think took 3.5 years. So that's, and suffering from a little PTSD from that process. We've got a very capable engineer who is with us and quarterback that process, so he can answer the technical nuances of all aspects of this. But I just don't know how you want to discuss it in the context of these applications, because the shoreline And the permits for same run across not just lot 7, not just lot 8, but
To the north.
right. So happy to start
Are
with
you
just.
being required to do that, the restoration north that's not even on your property?
On the final
Yes, Tom.
plot.
Yeah.
You are?
That's a condition of the application.
That was it was a condition of the land swap with Find.
Okay.
And that got quite complicated, as those things can. And the state is going to be, through our engineer, monitoring that. There were some, I forget the number, maybe 6 mangroves on the property in front of our development. Those will be removed. One thing that's really, I think, one of the more particular aspects of this is the Corps and in the state, to a lesser degree, disregarded the property line. So if you were to actually look overhead and run a line from the northeast corner of our south property to the southeast corner on the other side of Fine property, you will see that we were required to bring our shoreline in significantly in from the property line. And without getting into all of the state and federal regulations regarding that, essentially the Corps just says it's our waterway, and that's our jurisdiction, and we disregard the property line, and this is where we want the bulkhead to be. So if you're looking at that, trying to understand where it is in relation to the property line, that's why you see that pretty significant westward turn, and then it kind of comes back out to some degree, but most of that on the north end is filled with the mitigation, the mangrove mitigation. So again, quite complicated, but we've got a great engineer here who can explain any questions you might have.
What about the dredging? Does this include a substantial amount of dredging in front of these 2 lots, from lot 7 and 8?
Yes, that's part of the Corps permit.
It is. Where are they going to take that, I guess you call it soil, now, where are they going to take that material they're digging out there?
I think the plan was to reuse some of that for fill on lots 7 and 8.
Okay.
Is there any time, when I say timeline, how long does this project, is it an expected timeline, how long it's going to take?
With this approval, hopefully we go to commission and then it's building permit. There are no more permits required other than a building permit for all of the shoreline improvements. So it's really as soon as we have a permit.
Yeah.
And Gary, you said that the bulkhead's actually going to be back into the property.
Yeah.
It's not even right on the property.
No,
it's quite substantially back from the
That's
property.
right.
Any idea how long the project itself, once all the hoops have been gone through? I'm just thinking the people who are on the east side, they're going to have dredging going on and things like that.
That I don't know.
No
I
worries.
can't represent. Nicole, do you have anything from the contractor?
No, I just wondered how long there'll be work taking place in that.
I don't.
No,
Malcolm.
it was just out of interest because obviously the people who are on the intracoastal looking across.
If I had to guess and actually Neil Wood from C Engineering would be able to provide a more historical perspective on answering that question, what it should take.
It might be interesting if this goes forward. I'm not preempting any votes, but just for the commission, perhaps to let them know how long there'll be construction going on and people looking across at it and things like that.
My experience with this amount of shoreline in terms of the heavy lifting, the most intrusive part of this, I'm going to put closer to 2 months. The mitigation, which would come later, which I don't think most people will really even notice is happening. Things have to stabilize, and I would suspect that's a matter of weeks. Maybe the entire project from start to finish is somewhere between, I'm going to say no later than 4 months.
Right. Okay.
With the worst of it probably being around 60 days.
Thanks, Gary. As you said, this is a very technical proposal. Are there any other questions?
The black and red mangroves that you're removing, are you replacing them with the same type of mangrove, or have you figured that out yet?
I'm going to let
That is
Neil,
planned
come on.
with,
Let me
with
introduce.
both black and red mangroves.
This is Neil Wood from C Engineering.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I believe there was 8 mangroves that were being removed, and we had to go through the process of mitigation for those 8 mangroves. So on the fine property, we have approximately 1,400 square feet of mangrove planting area that will be planted with a staggered planting of both black and red mangroves, and it's orders of magnitude greater than the amount of mangroves that we're taking out.
So visually, from the other side, so on the east side of the Intracoastal, the residents looking west, once it's all done, it fundamentally will be unchanged. I mean, that's.
Well, there's going to be 2 houses with a,
No,
that's
not
with
the
a
vegetation.
concrete bulkhead. The fine property, the 180 feet of the fine shoreline will have a mangrove planting area on the north, about 700 square feet, and a mangrove planting area on the south part of the fine property adjacent to, I think it's lot 8.
Mm-hmm.
So lot 7 is the south lot, lot
Yeah.
8 is the north lot. And then when you get to the fine property,
It's the other way around.
Okay, it's the other way around. When you get to the fine property, the fine, Florida Inland Navigation District still wanted to be able to land a barge on that property. So we have about 100-foot landing area between the 2 mangrove planters.
To answer your question, I think what you're looking for, it's going to look drastically different. And the reason is, Paul, on the fine part of this property, if you were to drive in a boat down the Intercoastal, you would see an enormous horseshoe where erosion has really taken away a lot of that shoreline. So it's not the gradual natural slope. It's really quite a drop now.
Right.
And so that is going to be more of a natural slope into the mangrove mitigation area. And while what Neil said, it is the amount that we're planting relative to what's there is hugely significant in terms of just the planted area, but this material grows slow. In fact, I don't think there's any mangroves now in the parts of the fine property that will be replanted with mangroves. So I think anybody on the east side looking back, it's going to look exponentially better than what it does now.
Thank you.
Okay. So with that, if there aren't any more questions, could we have a motion, please?
Well, and the seawall, so,
Sorry to Paul. Any more questions?
yeah, I sorry. So I always defer to Trey on this because the seawall is beyond my capability of understanding. But essentially, it's meeting the heights and et cetera, et cetera. So again, I'm thinking more the visual as opposed to the technical. I'm not really.
No, sure. I think the height is somewhere around 6 or 6.5 feet NGVD, which is a little bit lower than what we our maximum. So.
And the color, I mean, the way it's finished is standard.
I mean,
Yeah, concrete.
Concrete cap with a broom finish.
Okay. Any comments from neighbors?
There were none.
Well, were there any letters sent? I mean, if you
Absolutely.
cross on the east side, is that included?
600 feet.
Okay. Thank you.
Tom, could you?
Okay.
Certainly. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of a level 3 architectural site plan to permit the installation of the bulkhead and revetment per the Army Corps of Engineers approved plans, excluding the docks.
I second.
Renee?
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwein?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes, thank you.
pretty detailed.
Okay, and with that, we move on to the final application this morning for lot 7.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Luis Rivera from Affinity Architects. And today we're presenting lot 7. This is the north home on the Blue Water Cove cul-de-sac. And it, as discussed before, is in the intercoastal. This one is going to be an Anglo-Caribbean style home, 2-story. We are right now, all the calculations of lot coverage, all the heights are at or below the allowable required by the code. So if you have any questions regarding style or...
Yeah, if you could take us through from the beginning
Sure.
of the presentation, please.
Sure. It's a 2-story home with a inset second floor, providing setbacks so that it's the area of the first floor is not completely taken. If you could move to the next.
Can you stay there a second?
Sure.
What color do you call that roof? Is it going to be cedar shake, or is that just what, is it?
It's a cedar tan color.
It's cedar though.
Yes, please.
Okay.
It's a
Oh,
it's cement.
yeah,
but
it's
it's
that
orange or red to me.
there's no
It's not
comparison between those two.
yeah, that's because of the lighting on the rendering.
Okay.
Okay.
So height-wise, we're below the allowable, which is 30 feet and 35 feet with the roof features. Right now, we're at 28 and 30. Again, the rear view is, one of the most important that we tackled because it was intercoastal. So we wanted to make sure that the rear elevation is as appealing as the front elevation. On the side elevations, we have shutters were applicable, and our side privacy garden meets the requirement of 4 feet high. And if you have any questions on the, yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm waiting for when you get to the next slide.
You can scroll. This is the landscape. For that, I'll have Luis Blajos explain.
Right. Do you have an elevation?
Yes.
Showing the landscaping.
Yes. If you go towards the landscape.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. What I'm looking for is the view from looking down Blue Water Cove, because the phrase "somewhat visible garage," it's either you can see it or you're not.
Well, this is the cul-de-sac. So
yeah, I know, but it says somewhat visible. I just wondered what the landscaping looks like.
I just want to explain on that. It won't be as visible as it looks on the elevations. There's, in addition to 2 streetscape oaks that are on the property,
Yep.
we're proposing 2 specimen sea grapes on either side of the entry. So basically here, you will have a large, and imitating that on this side also. Had we showed these on the elevation, you really wouldn't see the house.
Right.
Okay. This in turn is a specimen Senegal date palm, cluster date palm with multi-trunks, hand-picked specimen. Basically everything else is complementing the architecture. 2 Alexander palms on either side of this tall area here. Large podocarpus on either side of this, an entry wall feature. that we're showing, covering this whole wall here with a bougainvillea or Confederate jasmine vine, kind of bringing down that scale, was one of our design elements. And then large European fan palms on either side and so forth. There's a lot more. If we look at the landscape plan, I think we can, right here, we can go back. You can see here's the two large sea grapes right here. And as you can see, this was definitely planted there for that reason. So you're not driving down there and seeing a garage door, okay? And, you know, we moved it back as much. These are pilots, okay? So it's kind of hard to create like a motor court and also, but the proximity of the garage, you know, to the driveway, it can easily be, cars can back out, but at the same token, you know, they can swing in and go out.
Right. If this goes forward, I'd make a strong point about that, how you mitigate the garages being somewhat visible.
Again, they're going to be large. This one here might be, but as you can see with the angle here of the building, it's kind of blocked. It's not as visible as this one. But these large sea grapes here, we're looking at starting out at 25 feet.
Yeah, what might be interesting, if you go back to the, not interesting, if you go back to the elevation, the one that has the garage, elevation, front elevation. The one you've shown us where you can actually see the garage, and you said if you put the plants in, next one. You said if we put the trees in, it'll obscure the whole, which is fine. Can we go back to that slide, please? No. Yes.
There you go.
How difficult would it be, literally just as another slide, to show what it actually would look like, as opposed to?
Yeah, the tree would be.
I know it sounds crazy.
Right.
But one of the things that we want to see is, how does it look when it's finished? Okay. Obviously, you've got to have that, because otherwise you can't see it.
Well, I think also what we want to create also is like in Palm Beach, where the trees will grow together, and we can drive under. So you know,
if you can,
that will mitigate the whole. At the end of the street, you know, you're not like driving up to a building. And then just remember now, on the sides, you also have the two street oaks that are going to be there. So
I know where they are.
So that's.
But it wouldn't be a major task to show that exact slide again with the additional landscaping as it's going to go in.
Yeah, we can show.
We can show that. Yeah.
Basically, what's it going to look like? Basically,
it's going to be a landscaping elevation, as opposed to the home.
Correct.
elevation.
Well, the landscape elevation is taken from a different angle. I think this one
This
here.
one's right in front of the.
Well, I know, but for purposes.
But because of the garage, that's what needs to be addressed.
Okay.
Just add an extra slide for the commission meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, the commission.
Should this go forward?
Okay.
Yes.
We'll have the two options.
Again, I just, as we did on Lot 8, we're going to continue the 8 to 10 foot calophyllum hedge, you know, throughout both north and south properties. So that'll be immediate screening right there. If we go back to the landscape plan, and that's the front, you can see the hedge right here going throughout. On the north, here's the two streetscape oaks here and here, and two large sea grapes on that side. Again, with the centerpiece here visible as you drive into it. On the north side, large clusias, weeping photocarps, another large sea grape, which is repeated on the south side. And then another element, just to kind of bring the scale down, is some large 25 to 30 foot coconuts that we're going to have to shop around. And that's these just kind of throughout, you know, kind of creating the old Palm Beach feeling of the large coconuts, you know, just popping throughout with the lawn, and then some low jasmine minima underneath it, you know, and so forth. And then obviously, you know, we have the elements that are playing with the four large foxtail palms, you know, and then some tall also to kind of fill in these corners right here. Again, a water feature outside the main window as you walk in that would be visible as part of an entry feature. That's about it. And then obviously a separate spa that's back here. We created a privacy area here with a large sea grape, you know, and the same with the 4-foot wall right here. Some privacy with large coconuts, a large foxtail palm, you know, and then underneath it, this whole area here, very textural, very colorful, you know, kind of their private area. They like the outdoor showers and so forth, you know, and I think they'll have plenty of privacy between two neighbors with the 8 to 10 foot initial hedge that's going to go in there.
Mm-hmm. Just a point for future presentations. I know there's a lot of, you know, it's great that there's not many more buildings to be presented to us. A long time ago, we had that document, which showed us the juxtaposition of, it says in the verbiage, you know, where the Anglo-Caribbean is, it's lot 14. It would just be really helpful from a informational point of view to say, that's what we've got there, that's what we've got there.
Right.
Because it's down here, but if someone's new to the board or hasn't seen that, it's a case of just helping. That would be a recommendation for, even for if this goes forward to the commission. Just so, literally, just gives that spatial awareness.
We agree on that. But these two.
You've made that request before, so I apologize.
No, it's the world won't collapse because of it, but it will just help move forward.
It will be.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
When you're looking at the front of the house on the second floor to the left, it looks like that's a different color. Can you walk us through your idea for the color scheme? On the second floor to the left, it looks like it's painted a different color than the rest of the house.
It's a different material.
Okay.
I don't know if you have it here, but it's going to be a simulated wood that's cladding around the windows.
What now? Is it they're faux shutters? Is that correct?
The shutters, correct.
But this is the framing.
That's the framing.
This is the framing for the window cladding.
Right.
But then is the actual wall a different color? Also, it looks like it's black in the picture, but.
This here.
Oh, no, it's the same color. It's just the shadow.
Okay.
Right. The shadow looks.
Okay.
And what color are in the shutters?
Do you have a sample of the color? Okay.
White with a cut of a, is that a green?
That is the lighter color is the body and then the green shutters.
This is the house shutters.
Okay, that's a nearer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, here.
Yeah. Can you show those over here, please? Sorry.
And the shutter's a little darker than the.
Yeah.
Let me see that again. Sorry. Together with all that, thank you. Okay, thanks.
That's as close as I can get in, guys.
Yeah.
Could I see the elevation on the back of the property with the landscaping again? Because I know you spent a lot of time showing concern about the impact on people from the east.
There you go.
So you have a nice hedge that blocks all the pavers.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This is in front of the.
Yeah. Intercoastal.
Retaining wall.
Yeah.
Between the seawall and the 2 foot high
Right.
wall. Correct.
And as you say, it breaks up the form of the property as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
You can see the large coconuts, you know.
So one of the things I've noticed on the construction of new homes, lighting sometimes can be a little overwhelming. I happen to think that you have a neighbor to your south. You go down Gulfstream Road, everybody looks the same. All of a sudden, oh, that must be a hotel. I don't want to be quoted on that. But I do think that you'll have numerous homes that will be looking west on the east side of the intracoastal. And so the illumination and lighting has got to be more down than across.
Correct.
I believe. I'm not a lighting expert, but
Well,
I would like a subtle introduction of lighting and not a sun.
let me just say this. Number one, it's a residential and it's not a resort, so you don't have to worry about, the amount of lights so people don't trip or whatever, the circulation, number one. Number two, The large coconuts are gonna be hard to light, so those are not gonna be lit, and basically the light's gonna be underneath the sea grapes, which is basically just gonna be lighting up the canopy, and a little bit of the understory, maybe some path lights wherever need to. And realistically, I think the only thing that they really would see from the east side would be these right here. 1, 2, 3, 4 foxtail palms that are on the dock right there. And again, that's not going to be something.
I'm really more concerned about on the left side, on the south side. See that wing? You have those two lights. That they're the illumination, the brightness, whatever the term is. That they just.
Oh, these two, right? The sconces.
That's
yeah.
It's just lighting.
That's just lighting. I don't think that's going to be on as landscape lighting. I think when they want to exit, or let's say they're having a
you need appropriate
party or something, you might
I think it's
turn those
Every
on.
exterior.
You have to have a light out.
You have to have a light.
Right. It's hard for you to appreciate, but if you took the time someday to go down in the evening,
right,
and you'll see one house that very clearly is lit up, and we don't want that. I don't want that.
May I make a comment? So the two streets that dead end to the intercoastal across the way are Middle and Gulfview.
Mm-hmm.
And the houses on the end of both of those roads, I've had to deal with lighting issues before.
Okay,
so some neighbors. So just be aware. I mean, they are very cognizant of the lighting.
These are just finer points, but
rather important.
Yeah. Any questions?
Trey, does the spa meet the side setback? I thought for a minor accessory structure it was 12 feet, but
Oh, that's you're talking about the barbecue bar?
the spa.
Oh, the spot.
What about spa?
They want to know if it meets the setback.
Yes, it does. It meets the 10-foot accessory and pool setback that's required. Correct. And then at the same token, as you can see around it, we're making an effort to not just have it out in the open, but kind of provide an experience and privacy, for the owners.
Trey, can you check and make sure that's 10 foot? Is it
right? So Ms. Orthwine is correct. It is a 12-foot side setback for minor accessory structures, which a spa would be. I know that we addressed this at the pre-application meeting. I can't remember if it was they were directed to change it or what, but we did talk about the location of the spa, as you recall.
We did.
It's
The
not
10 foot is only for those pools on the square lots. It's
Okay.
not for the big.
I think that we mentioned that they could apply for a 10-foot setback under a special exception because it's a non-single family lot there that they border, but this application does not include a special exception.
I don't think that would be an issue. I think, as you can see from the plan, we have plenty of room to move it to the north. 2 feet is really not going to make a difference.
If this moves forward,
so if that's the case, then we can obviously make that revision.
If you can note that in your, when you read that.
in the motion.
Mhm.
But that would be a separate special exception, which would have to be considered if this moves forward at the commission. Something else for them to approve.
You're not going to have to
No.
for a special
We can move it. Yeah,
You just move
we
it.
can move it.
You just move it.
Really, yeah,
Right.
there's
Fine.
really, we're talking 2
That's
feet
fine.
here.
Keep
It's
it
not
simple. Okay.
5 or 10 or whatever.
Well, I'll make an observation on this house. It's 7,000 square feet. It's a big house. But the way you managed to spread the square footage, the massing is overwhelming, which it could very well be. So I like the way you arrange the FAR.
Yeah, the second floor.
The second floor is really minimized and setback. Correct.
And, you have a long wing on the north side, which is undefined property, so.
Sure.
No, we don't.
Again,
So really no.
we have trees there, 4 trees, 2 clusias, 1 weeping portocarpus, and 1 sea grape that eventually by the time anything happens in the fine property, it'll be a nice screen for the owners on our property and also for future development in the fine property.
Okay, any more questions?
I'm done.
Tom, you okay?
Yeah, yes. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the level 3 architectural site plan based on a finding that the construction of a 6,967 square foot Anglo-Caribbean style 2-story single-family dwelling with a 3-car garage and swimming pool, including new landscape and hardscape and dock, meets the minimum intent of the design manual and applicable review standards with the following conditions. First, the spa structure shall be moved 12 feet from the setback line on the south side of the property, and any minor modification to the approved landscaping shall be submitted to the town manager for review and approval, and any major modification shall be brought back to the ARPB for review and approval prior to commencement of the landscaping.
I second.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mrs. Orthwine?
Yes.
Mr. Lyons?
Yes.
Chairman Murphy?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
And so we move on to items from staff.
Nothing, Chairman, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Board members, any items? Paul, anything you want to raise?
No.
The public is no more. And so with that, thanks everybody. This meeting's adjourned.